Hey, what is up, mortals? It is TCCrew here with a new video for you. Welcome to part 9 of What If Quirks Were Outlawed. I just wanted to greet you guys by just saying, sit back and relax, y'all in for a treat. So, we begin. The night was, as it always was, busy. The AQTF were patrolling like they always do, stopping criminals and evildoers wherever they found one. A new type of enemy had become more frequent, however. That was the vigilantes. For the longest time, the public had been unaware of the existence of the vigilantes, but that suddenly changed one day. News reporters somehow managed to get their hands on that information, and the story spread like wildfire. Stories about events that regarded AQTF officers, encounters with criminals, and many other things were reported, and they painted the vigilantes in a more positive light. This led to a massive debate within society. Were the vigilantes evil? Are they right or are they wrong? The debate started in favor of the AQTF, but soon divided society as the vigilantes began showing themselves more. People started to sympathize with the vigilantes, and the AQTF didn't take that lightly. Their activity increased more than ever, pouring more resources and deploying more agents to deal with the problem. One of those agents were Tensei Ida, codename Ingenium. He was out chasing the lead of a vigilante, one that they considered to be very dangerous, and he would stop at nothing to bring him in. The vigilantes were a representation of the things that plague society, so they will not walk free. Ingenium kept speeding through the streets, following the trail and shadow of his target. In his eyes, the vigilante was no more than his prey, so he wasn't afraid. The agent chased this trail for a while, until it led him to a dark and secluded alleyway. The armored agent stopped and carefully observed his surroundings, only to be confused. There wasn't a single trace of a person he was chasing, nothing at all. Ingenium was furious, concluding that the vigilante had run off like the coward he was. That is when the sound of something landing appeared behind him. Ingenium turned around, only to find the person he was looking for. It was a sword-wielding maniac, clad in crimson. The armored speedster carefully observed the vigilante until he said, "I finally caught up with you! Now there's nowhere to hide!" With a menacing voice. The vigilante didn't budge for anything. It was as if he hadn't even heard him speak. Ingenium got annoyed upon seeing this and said, "It's time that I put you where you belong!" Before charging at the vigilante, Ingenium was going full speed, so there was no way to avoid it. Shockingly, however, it was exactly what the vigilante did. He avoided the first hit by calmly dodging. Ingenium was surprised by this, but didn't let it show as he went for another hit, only to realize that he couldn't. He was suddenly on the ground, completely unable to move. Ingenium didn't know what was happening. He was just paralyzed. He did notice that he had a small bleeding cut in one of the openings in his armor. But how could that be the cause of his paralysis? The agent tried to force his body to move as the footsteps of the approaching vigilante neared him. "No, it's time that I send you to where you belong," the vigilante said, his voice being as dark and menacing as anything could. Ingenium was horrified by this. He couldn't move, and a maniacal vigilante was steadily approaching him. He then got a good look into the bloodthirsty and malicious eyes of the vigilante, filling him with even more terror. The vigilante tightened the grip around his sword, before raising it over his head and shouting, "Straight to hell!" With even more ferocity, Ingenium stared at the approaching sword in utter terror. He believed that he was the hunter, but it turned out that he was the prey. That was the last thing that went through Ingenium's mind before the alleyway was filled with a blood-curdling scream. Midoriya had changed for the better. His confidence had gone up and he had gotten stronger. It wasn't just the fact that he had a quirk now, but his overall abilities improved. He had better combat skills, better mobility, and better decision making. To top it off, he now had One for All powering him in everything that he did. He was basically a novice when it came to using the quirk, but with the help of his companions, he managed to at least get some control over it. If that wasn't enough, he always analyzed his opponents before trying to incorporate whatever he found useful into his own style. All of these factors combined made Midoriya into a very valuable and competent member of the Vigilantes. He was so competent that they sometimes let him patrol on his own. This was one of those times. The night was lively, and for a good reason. During Midoriya's recovery, the Vigilantes had followed the plan, an idea that he had presented, and it was showing results. The public now knew of them, and they had managed to put society into a heated debate. This meant that Midoriya's plan was working, but of course that came with its own downsides. The AQTF were more active and brutal than ever, and this night was no different. Midoriya was alone tonight, stopping whatever crime that he could. Unfortunately for him, the AQTF caught wind of his whereabouts and began storming the area in no time. The green-haired vigilante was just about to leave, but stopped when he saw something that caught his eye. It was someone that was with the AQTF, with a slim build and blonde hair. What shocked him was how young he was, for he looked to be just 1 or 2 years older than Midoriya. At first he wondered why he was there, but then realized that he was probably what people called a rookie, or an AQTF in training. Midoriya didn't get to think much more of it, however, before he had to run. He quickly took off into the alleyways, hiding in the shadows as much as he could, and getting as far away from the enemy as possible. Eventually, he was far away enough to make it to one of the rooftops without being seen. The green-haired vigilante was about to climb the fire escape and get to the rooftop, but he was abruptly stopped by a powerful kick. The attack missed by a hair and crashed into the escape ladder that he was holding, but it was still enough to make Midoriya throw himself back. The vigilante panted heavily at the uneven pace, shocking by the sudden attack. As he analyzed his mysterious attacker, Midoriya was surprised by what he saw. It was a boy that was the same age as him, with blue hair and glasses. What made him stand out more were the mufflers on his calves, which Midoriya assumed was his quirk. Midoriya was confused, and with good reason. This kid didn't look like a street thug, but he didn't look like he was with the AQTF either. He looked like any law-obeying individual, so why was he here? And why did he possibly use his quirk to attack him? The green-haired boy managed to calm down his breathing before he decided to speak. "You're not with the AQTF, and you're not a criminal either. So who are you, and what are you doing here?" Midoriya said, sounding as calm as he could muster. The blue-haired boy looked angry as he looked at the vigilante and said, "My name is Tenya Ida, and I'm here to put an end to you," with an aggressive tone. Midoriya was thrown off by this. He was used to aggressive tones by now, but this one seemed different. It was filled with loathing, like Ida genuinely hated Midoriya for some reason. Another thing that threw him off was the fact that he had said his name so recklessly. This told Midoriya one of three things. Ida possibly didn't know the importance of a secret identity when doing these kind of things, or he knew but didn't care, or it could be that he was sure that it wouldn't be a problem. If it was the last part, it lined up with what the blue-haired boy had just said. He was here to kill Midoriya. "Whatever did I do to you?" Midoriya asked, hoping to get an answer. Ida just looked more angry than before as he shouted, "What did you do? You killed my older brother!" With rage in his voice, Midoriya was once again shocked. This was a response he hadn't expected. He expected Ida to say something about breaking the law, but he was accusing Midoriya of murder? Ida saw the vigilante face of confusion and was enraged even further. "Don't act like you don't know! You and your people killed my brother, Tensei! He was the AQTF agent known as Ingenium, and you carved him open! You slaughtered him like an animal!" The blue-haired boy shouted, sounding like he was emotionally pained as he did. This outburst made Midoriya jump a little, but he tried his best to hide it. He didn't know of any agent named Ingenium, but that wasn't what caught his attention. What caught his attention was Ida's specific choice of words. He said, "carved him out," which implied that the killer might have used some sort of blade. That, coupled with the fact that Ida seemed to be convinced that the vigilante was responsible, made him think of the only blade-wielding vigilante that he knew. Midoriya quickly shook these thoughts out of his head. for he needed to stay focused as he said,
I don't know what you're talking about, but I'm sorry for your loss, and it would appear that I have something to discuss with my allies when I get back.
with a calm voice. Ida just got more annoyed as he said,
No, you won't discuss anything with anyone, because you'll die right here!
with a burning fury as he charged towards the vigilante. Midoriya had remained focused and therefore could avoid Ida's attack, but it was close. The blue-haired boy was fast, but Midoriya had faced way worse. Ida then prepared to throw an incredible powerful kick towards Midoriya's skull, but the green-haired vigilante didn't let him. The green-haired boy channeled 8% of One for All into his right arm before throwing it into Ida's face. The blue-haired teen staggered back as Midoriya threw a blow after blow into his face. Eventually, it was too much, and Ida dropped to the ground, unconscious.
Sorry, but I'd rather not be killed by you in a dark and secluded alleyway,
Midoriya then said, panting lightly as he did. The green-haired boy then gathered himself as he carefully scanned the area. The AQTF would probably find him soon, especially since Ida had decided to make so much noise. He needed to leave, but he couldn't just leave Ida there. The AQTF had no mercy, therefore Ida would end up in trouble if he was just left there.
I guess I can't just leave you here like this.
The green-haired boy said to himself while looking at the unconscious Ida. Why bother helping your enemy? I thought it would cause you more harm than good. A voice then said, responding to Midoriya's words. The green-haired boy froze upon hearing this as he turned towards the source of the voice. What he saw was none other than the same blonde kid from earlier, the one he thought looked like a rookie. Midoriya also looked panicked, for this was bad. If the rookie was here, it meant that he didn't have much time before he was swarmed, and when that happened, it would be over. He quickly calmed himself, however, and tried to make a plan. He didn't have time to fight, but he couldn't just escape either. Unless he wanted to be chased, he needed to shake this rookie. Luckily, it seemed like this rookie had been way ahead of everyone else, so at least he had some time to do something.
Unlike you, I don't wish to needlessly harm my enemies,
Midoriya said, hoping that an answer would keep the blonde at bay. The rookie looked surprised to hear this, but he didn't follow up with another question. The two stared each other down, both waiting for the other to move. Midoriya's eyes quickly glanced at his escape ladder, and the rookie clearly noticed.
You look new. Are you perhaps a rookie?
Midoriya then asked calmly. The blonde reacted weirdly upon hearing this, as he looked at the vigilante and said, Doesn't matter whether I'm a rookie or not, almost sounding a little annoyed. Midoriya knew that he couldn't hope for a direct answer, but he still got what he wanted. The blonde's reaction said it all. He was indeed a rookie. This also meant that Midoriya could possibly use tricks that wouldn't work on regular agents. The green vigilante looked towards the ladder once more, as he said,
Yes, it does matter a lot, actually.
Before looking at the blonde once again, the rookie looked like he was ready after hearing this, which is what Midoriya wanted to see. The two then stared each other down in silence before Midoriya suddenly took off. The green-haired boy used 8% of One for All in his legs to quickly dash over to the ladder, reaching it in a blink of an eye. You're too obvious! The rookie then shouted as he appeared right next to Midoriya. The blonde looked like he had won, and was about to throw a punch at the vigilante. He was interrupted, however, by Midoriya, who just hit him with a punch that was charged with One for All. The blonde was knocked back, and Midoriya didn't waste any time. He charged and threw another punch at the blonde, only to have it phasing through him. Midoriya was shocked to see this, as the blonde suddenly fell through the floor. The green-haired vigilante could only assume that this was the rookie's quirk, the ability to phase through solid matter. This meant that the blonde could appear anywhere, but if his combat experience had taught him anything, it's that people tend to go for the same blind spots. Midoriya quickly turned around, just in time to throw a punch at the recently appearing blonde. The rookie was thrown back once more, and he was in more shock than before. The vigilante then paused, however, and went in for another attack, only to have it phase through again. The blonde then threw a punch at the vigilante, but it was blocked as he jumped back. Both fighters stopped and panted, before awestruck about the other's abilities. Midoriya was amazed by the control that this rookie had over his quirk, while the blonde was amazed by the vigilante's combat. This amazement caused a huge pause in their fight, and that pause made the blonde realize something. You're the vigilante that defeated Sir Night-Eye, the one called Deku, the blonde said, panting a little as he did. Midoriya didn't expect to hear this, but he remained calm as he said,
Yes, so what?
with a calm voice, the blonde continued to pant as he answered.
He's my mentor. He told me about you.
Midoriya was surprised to hear this, but this explained a lot. If this rookie was being trained by Night Eye, it shouldn't be surprising that he had such good quirk control. This also made the green-haired boy worry, for Night Eye's pupil could potentially be as cold-blooded as Night Eye.
Your mentor is a demon. He tried to seriously injure, if not kill, me and my friends.
The vigilante said, sounding a little angry as he did. The blonde didn't take this lightly as he said,
Sir is an upholder of the law, and the AQTF protects society and its people.
with an equally angry voice. Midoriya just got angrier upon hearing this as he said,
Do you seriously believe that? Or are you just naive?
with an aggressive tone. The blonde was shocked to hear this kind of tone from the vigilante and remained silent. Both had stopped panting by now, as Midoriya continued by saying,
If the AQTF are the protectors of society, why are they terrorizing its people? Why can they decide to beat any teenager kid half to death for just using their quirk? And why aren't they trying to help people who are forced to live on the streets?
with the same tone as before. The blonde was shocked upon hearing this, but he didn't change his tone as he said,
You're a law-breaking vigilante and bringing disorder to society. What would you know about this?
Midoriya was unfazed by this. He was running out of time, but he couldn't just leave yet. He needed to set this rookie straight, and it brought him to something that Toshinori had said a while back. After his encounter with Night Eye, Toshinori had told Midoriya about his connection with him, and it made the green-haired boy sick to think about it.
I assume that your mentor never told you about what he was and used to be before joining the AQTF. Your precious Night Eye used to be a law-breaking vigilante.
The green-haired boy said, not changing his tone for a second. The blonde was both shocked and angry to hear this, and Midoriya could tell that he didn't believe it to be true.
You can ask him yourself if you don't believe me, but do me a favor and ask him something else while you're at it. Ask him about Toshinori Yagi, the friend that he betrayed and left to die without a second thought.
Midoriya then said, intending this to be his final words. The two were silent once more. The blonde was processing everything that the vigilante had told him, while Midoriya was looking for an opening. That opening came when the sound of other AQTF officers approaching the area could be heard, which distracted and caught the blonde off guard. Midoriya saw his opportunity as he channeled 100% of One for All into his finger before flicking it towards the blonde. The force from the flick created a powerful blast of wind that hit the blonde in the head, greatly disorienting him. Midoriya did break his finger in the process of doing this, but it didn't stop him. He only grunted in pain as he quickly made his way to the ladder, before stopping when he was about halfway up. He looked down and saw that Ida was just about to wake up from his unconscious state. Midoriya wanted to go down there and help him out of there, but the approaching officers stopped him from doing so. There was no way to help Ida and to get to safety. If he wanted to escape, he would have to leave Ida behind to act as a decoy, but that would mean leaving him to suffer pain that he never would wish upon his worst enemy. Midoriya gritted his teeth and clenched his fist hard as he muttered,
I'm sorry, Ida.
Midoriya proceeding to climb the ladder with haste. The officers did as Midoriya expected. They focused mostly on Ida and the blonde. The green-haired boy didn't stay for too long, however, for it was only a matter of time before the blonde pointed out his escape route. He did stay long enough, however, to hear the codename of the naive rookie.
Lemillion,
he muttered as he ran across the rooftops. Midoriya reported the night's events to Aizawa, and immediately got help with curing his broken finger. Everyone was back now, and they were cooperating nicely. The other teens were praising Midoriya for his work, but the green-haired boy couldn't hear any of it. He was too focused on another individual that was sitting silently in the room, Stain. He couldn't let Ida's words out of his head, for they always gave him the same picture. It matched no one but Stain. But he didn't want to believe that one of his own allies was a murderer. On the other hand, it would explain the eerie and ominous feeling that he sometimes gets from the crimson-clad vigilante. Midoriya kept staring at Stain until Stain looked back. Their eyes were now locked with one another across the room, and it sent chills down Midoriya's spine. It wasn't that Stain looked threatening, he was grinning. This was enough for the green-haired boy. He needed answers. He got up from his seat and walked toward Stain, who had done the exact same. The two met up in the middle of the room and stopped. Everyone looked at the two in silence until Midoriya broke it.
We need to talk.
The green-haired boy said, sounding serious. Stain continued to grin upon hearing this, as he, with a hint of satisfaction, responded by saying, "Yeah, it's about time that we did so." Thank you all for sticking around, and I hope that you enjoyed. Before you leave, we would just like to let you know that We the Celestials has many other channels for your entertainment and viewing purposes. All the information you'll need is right below here in the description, so feel free to check out all the other incredible projects our team creates. Secondly, on behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank everyone involved in the production of today's awesome content. Their details will be in the description. That's all for today's video, so goodbye and have a divine day.